Update. My wife, 25 female, threw away my entire Pokemon card collection because she said I was too old for it. Original post. I'm 30 male, and I've been collecting Pokemon cards since I was a kid. Some are from the 90s and even worth a bit of money. Not that it matters, I would never sell them. Mostly they're sentimental. They remind me of after-school afternoons, trading with friends, and a version of myself that felt simple and safe. I kept them neatly in binders on a shelf in my office. They weren't hidden. They were on display in a place that meant something to me. A few days ago, I noticed the binders were gone. At first, I thought I'd misplaced them because I'd been so busy, but I checked everywhere. When I asked my wife, been married 2 years, where they were, she told me she threw them out. Her exact line was, "You're a grown man. You don't need to play with kids' stuff." She didn't ask, didn't suggest storage, didn't offer any explanation beyond that. She just binned something that had been part of my life for decades. I honestly felt sick. It wasn't just the loss of paper and ink. It felt like a deliberate erasure of part of my history. When I got angry, she doubled down and said I should thank her for helping me move on, as if tossing the boxes was some favor. We argued. I tried to explain why those cards mattered, the friends who've moved away, the tournaments, the rush of pulling a rare card, the way those binders hold memories. She listened like it was an anecdote about someone else, then shrugged, as if my hurt was irrational. I know collecting is weird to some people, stamps, vinyl, whatever, but this felt different because it was connected to my past self. Imagining her carry the trash bags out like it was no big deal made me feel violated and disrespected in a way I can't easily put into words. I don't know what comes next. It probably sounds dramatic, but it feels like a boundary was crossed. Seems to me like I might need to file for divorce, so I just wanted to shout this into the void while I decide what to do. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Not even exaggerating, this is divorce-worthy. And she'll probably paint it as you divorcing her over silly Pokemon cards, but it's you divorcing her because she doesn't respect you or the things you love. You can have a wife who doesn't tear you down for the things you love, but loves you because of them. In my view, when she decided to do this, she threw away our marriage along with the cards. My mother did this all my life to my father. She throws away anything of his she doesn't like. Shoes, clothes, memorabilia, art, etc. It carries over to other parts of their marriage. She steamrolls him on everything. He wishes he had gotten a divorce many years ago, and we, the kids, suffered for it. I'm sorry to hear this. I hope one day he has the strength to run from her. To anyone in a similar situation reading this, staying together for the kids is nearly always a huge mistake. Children learn from their parents how a relationship is supposed to work. They will know instinctively if you're miserable, and they inevitably see the abuse thrown your way and will internalize it, thinking that it's the normal way a relationship works. Don't do it unless the alternative is literally life-threatening. You will damage your kids for life. I would be pressing charges. Pokemon cards are collectibles. I would be horrified my partner did that and would be filing for divorce as well. Can you get them from your bins? Or have they been taken away? Contact your counsel with the date the bins were taken. Maybe you can go to the tip and find them? Sadly, it looks like they might be gone. It seems she did this last week, so I have given up hope on the cards. However, I consider this a small price to pay to show me who the real woman I married is. She might have thrown away my happy memories, but in return, she has saved me many more years wasted with her. I'm loving this attitude. So many people come on here and try to justify crappy behavior. I'm glad you see it, and her, for what it is, and aren't willing to live with the disrespect. Good for you, and I hope nothing but the best for you. Also, I'm so sorry about the cards. I was never into Pokemon, but I have a ton of collectible Barbies. If my husband threw them out, I would do things I can't say on the internet because words like premeditated could be tossed around a courtroom. Thanks for your support. I'm trying my best to stay positive. Now for the update. Firstly, I want to start off by saying thanks for all the messages and support on my last post. I don't want to be that guy, so let me deal with a couple of the commonly raised issues or questions. I checked with the local rubbish collection service, but unfortunately, they weren't able to help. It's not the case that my soon-to-be ex-wife sold these. She threw them out 100%. She has no need for the money. My wife does not have a gambling or drug problem that I am aware of. We spent most of our days together, so it would be impressive if she managed to hide this. As for me, I have moved out of the family home and made my intentions clear to my soon-to-be ex-wife that I will be filing for divorce shortly. She did not take it well. She accepts wrongdoing and says it was a lapse in judgment, but sadly this isn't something we are going to be able to reconcile. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to comment and/or reach out. It helped more than you might think. Additionally, a couple of people reached out offering money to help me replace the cards. As much as that is a kind gesture, I won't be accepting any donations. But if you're feeling generous, please consider donating to your local homeless shelter. This will be the last update from me on this. In the early 1980s, my mom became evangelical and started thinking everything was demonic. I had 2 large cardboard boxes full of comics. I would buy them at this thrift store for like 10 cents each. I had what I know today were some valuable comics. I came back in early high school to find she had burnt them all. Unfortunately, I couldn't divorce my mom. Yeah, when I started working, I started to buy video games and music CDs. One time when my uncle, who is a preacher, visited, they had him look at my CD and game collection. I literally stood there as they broke my CDs and video games, there in front of me. I told them that I had worked and I had paid for them and that they were mine completely. He said he didn't want them in his house. After an argument, I asked if he or my uncle would be paying for each broken CD. We were talking a couple $100. Newer games and CDs, and he almost broke my PS3, but he knew what I paid for that one. Either way, I think something clicked after that, because he never did mess with my stuff after that. He never apologized or returned what it was worth back to me, but I think I did make him realize that this stuff was expensive and it wasn't his. She's lying about the lapse in judgment. She was just hoping you'd get over it. Yes, she's only saying it was a lapse in judgment because you didn't react the way she wanted you to. She would absolutely do it again in a heartbeat. You can never trust this woman with anything you cherish ever again. What's her endgame for doing that? Like, what did she expect would happen? Her becoming your only Pokemon? She had this image of a man in her head, and Pokemon cards weren't part of that image. I've seen people who get in fights and breakups with their partners over gym time, mountain climbing, working too much, working too little, collecting this, playing video games, not being a servant for the in-laws. Person wanted their days off to be theirs, not promised away by their partner. Said a real man would just do it on top of working, like her dad would, who is, in fact, 3 times divorced himself. Last story. Update. Am I overreacting? My boyfriend held me underwater during a bath to prove a point and I'm still shaken. Original post. I'm 19 female and have been with my boyfriend 23 male for over a year now. We come from different countries and religions, but we've made it work. I have to mention this. My boyfriend loves turning everything into a competition. We both go to the gym and he's always like, who can do this better? Even at home, he's always asking who can cook better, clean faster, you name it. A week ago, we were relaxing in the bathtub together. He asked who I thought could hold the other underwater the longest. I found it weird and just brushed it off as one of his usual questions. Just 2 to 3 minutes later, he got up as if to get out of the bathtub and suddenly pushed me underwater. He kept me under for what felt like more than 20 seconds. When he finally let go, he started laughing. I'm generally healthy, but I have a heart condition that requires daily medication to keep my heart rate normal. Without meds, my heart rate can go up to 140 to 150 beats per minute. Even with meds, sudden situations like this can make my heart rate spike to 140 and stay between 110 and 120 for the next few days. He knows this. He brought up what happened today and said he apologized, which he didn't, and that I should get over it. I'm trying. He said he was trying to prove a point, that I need to work on myself more. It doesn't make sense to me because he's naturally stronger than me, and no matter how much I work out, I can't always defend myself successfully against everything. I can't talk to my sister or mother about it. They just ask what I was doing in a bathtub with a guy in the first place. I still don't have friends here. It's just him and me. We've talked about it more than once, and he says if I did this to him, he would have found it funny. I don't know if I just need to loosen up more, but I don't understand how holding me underwater for that long was ever funny in his head. Edit. He's also complaining now about the marks I left on his wrist and arm, almost faded. I didn't mean to. It was sudden. I swallowed a bit of water, and I was freaking out and just wanted him to let go. I apologized for this, but told him it was a natural reaction to what he did. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You need to get out immediately. Do not listen to anything he says to you to convince you otherwise. He is dangerous. If there is a universe where what he did could be forgiven as a massive error in judgment, the way he's reacted since then, finding about 6 different ways to blame you for being upset, is the opposite of what that would look like. His actions are evil, and he acts like a sociopath. 100% this. Holding you underwater was not a competition or a joke. It does not really matter why he did it. Him choosing to do it is absolutely evil. It is no different than him pulling out and cocking a gun and pointing it at you. He is dangerous. You're completely right. It's just I've never felt unsafe or uncomfortable around him. That's why this is so difficult for me, I guess. This is very, very scary. I am afraid for you. You are still shaken because what he did was violent. There is no other way to define it. He used his greater body mass to restrain you in a dangerous, scary, and potentially life-threatening situation, and found it funny. He has gone far beyond the boundaries of normal competitiveness. The fact that he pushed you to apologize for leaving marks on his arm while he was practically drowning you leads me to believe that he, 1, is unable or unwilling to see the true harm of his actions. 2, will do something similarly violent again. 3, will find a way to make your reactions to his violence the bigger problem. Please find a way to remove this man from your life soon, before he escalates and puts you in even greater danger. I'm afraid too, and can't stop thinking about what if he does something like this again. I'm confused because he says he didn't really mean to hurt me and I love him a lot. I know I need to really do something about it, but it's been a week and I still haven't done anything. What point was he trying to prove? That at any moment he could just kill you? Actually, that could be the point. He's showing her that he's stronger and willing to do this to her. This makes her controllable. Maybe he wouldn't even need to use more physical violence with the threat of it always in the background. Abuse is always about control, whether it's physical or only emotional. I had an ex who pinned me down when I was lying on my stomach and told me to try to get up. He was stronger and probably outweighed me by over 40 pounds, so I couldn't get him off. He then said to me, "See, I can do what I want, whenever I want." It was not a healthy relationship, and he has cheated on and abused women since then. Much, much worse than anything he did to me. Now for the update. Hi, I just wanted to let you know that I'm away and safe. I tried to log in 2 days ago to update but found that my account has been suspended. Maybe I did something wrong while creating it, or mentioned some details I wasn't supposed to. But I'm okay now and wanted you to know, because I'm really grateful for all the advice and support I received that I wasn't sure I would find anywhere else. I'm currently staying with a woman who used to be one of my neighbors before I moved in with him a few months ago. She's the only person I could think of calling for help, and she didn't hesitate to come right away to help pack some of my things and leave. She also encouraged me to call my family. I called my mom 2 days later. She promised not to tell my siblings or my father. My parents are divorced. I told her everything, and she asked how she could help, which was something I wasn't actually expecting. The main reason I was hesitant to let my family know is because of both my older sister and my father. They always bring up things people feel ashamed of, or bad experiences they've had just to win arguments. As for my ex, he apologized. He said he meant nothing by what he did and promised never to do it again. But just 3 days after leaving him, he tricked me into meeting him through one of his friends. She said he packed the rest of my things and asked her to give them back to me. I went to meet her in a public place that I insisted on, and he was with her. We didn't talk because I left right away before I even made it to their table. Since I blocked him the day I left, my neighbor called him and let him know that she has no problem helping me get a restraining order if he ever tries anything. That's all. I'm safe and I know now that I did the right thing. I'm glad I called her. I found a place with 2 roommates that I will be moving to next week. Although she said I can stay as long as I want, she's already done so much for me, and I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of her kindness. Thank you again for all the advice. Edit. There were a lot of comments asking if my boyfriend is Muslim or if both of us are from the Middle East. To clarify, neither of us is Muslim, but I'm from the Middle East. Blocking. Don't speak to him again, and report this to the police and let the chips fall where they were. And don't back off. Press charges. I blocked him the day I left. Thank you. Please go to the police. You could potentially get text evidence of what he did by simply texting, "Do you know why exactly I've left you?" And just talk to him long enough that he admits everything he's done to you. If he keeps avoiding, then you can say, "No, it's because you tried to drown me on X date," and let him respond and make sure he admits it all. Then screenshot everything, send proof of everything to multiple emails, then block him again. Oh, thank God. I have been thinking about you every day since you posted. I am so glad you trusted your mom and she actually came through. I know you were scared about that. Keep relying on the people who have proven to be on your side, and keep being way overly careful and staying the hell away from him. I'm so happy to hear you're okay. Yeah, I was so scared to call my mom, but she was surprisingly understanding and said all she wanted was for me to be safe and come back to her alive. I'm really glad I called my neighbor, even though it was so hard for me. I was literally shaking and cried before calling. But that was what actually pushed me to seek help. Thank you so much. I am so glad you're okay. It's not going to be easy for a bit, but just keep being kind to yourself. Get someone to talk to if you can. I think you need to process that what happened to you actually was supremely not okay. But take your time to get there. I'm just glad you got out. Am I the a-hole for being vindictive towards my cheating boyfriend? My boyfriend of almost 6 years was caught cheating. Again. I know. I know most people would say I should have left the first time, and they wouldn't be wrong. I tell myself that every day. But relationships are complicated when you've built a life around someone. Shared routines, inside jokes, holidays with families. Plans that felt real at the time. Walking away the first time felt impossible. So I stayed. Over the years, there were red flags I convinced myself weren't deal breakers. I found sex chats. I found evidence of extreme porn consumption that made me uncomfortable. I had that constant pit in my stomach that something wasn't right. But every time I brought things up, he'd apologize, promise to change, act devastated at the thought of losing me, and I'd fold. Around Thanksgiving, I found out he had been with another woman. Then just a week ago, I learned he had gone out with her again and gone back to her apartment. That detail hit differently. The repetition, the casualness of it. Something in me finally snapped. I was upset, yes, distraught, but not surprised. And maybe that's the saddest part. My shock had run out a long time ago. In that emotional spiral, I did something impulsive. A guy who had asked me out months ago, back when I declined because I was happily taken, had recently reached out. I told him I wasn't looking for anything serious, and we made plans to go on a date. It felt reckless and freeing at the same time. While my ex and I were still texting back and forth, I told him, "I'm going to drop off the rest of your stuff on my way to my date." He completely lost it. Suddenly he was the one devastated. He kept texting about how sad he was, how he couldn't stand the thought of me with someone else, asking if I was really going to do it. I said yes. I even alluded to the possibility that if things led to sex, I wouldn't stop it. Watching him unravel felt darkly satisfying. He blew up my phone the entire evening. My date ended up being just that, a date. No sex, nothing physical beyond some light flirting and conversation. But I never told my ex that. I let him sit with the image he had created in his mind. I have no intention of getting back with him. The camel's back is broken. But I can't deny that part of me wanted him to feel even a fraction of the anxiety, jealousy, and betrayal I lived with for years. Maybe it was vindictive. Maybe it was extreme. Or maybe it was the first time I stopped protecting his feelings at the expense of my own. Edit to add. All of the back and forth was prior to the date. The evening of the date, he texted me, "Please don't do this, I messed up." To which I replied, "Okay," and blocked him on all means of communication with me. It was not an after-the-fact baiting, but more of the last word. Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. You did what felt right, giving him a taste of what he put you through. You've dropped off his things and have no intention of going back. Go no contact. Full-on block him everywhere. Good for you. Happier New Year. Exactly. Thank you. Petty, but he is your ex now. Good for you. Don't need to explain a thing to him now. Move on. Take things back and forget his cheating butt. Wish you the best, girl. Funny how the cheaters always melt down when their ex moves on with someone else. They can't stand not having someone they want, and it doesn't matter to them whether they're in a relationship or not. I had a coworker who I knew was cheating on his wife. At a conference, he was talking about some woman he was planning on hooking up with that night at the hotel. So I replied, "Isn't it neat that while you're here in this hotel hooking up with someone, your wife is probably home hooking up with someone else?" He did not like that. They can't justify why it's okay for them to cheat, but not okay for their partner. Now, of course, I have no reason to believe she was cheating. They were divorced within a year, so I'm guessing she figured it out. I had no way to contact her, or I would have been the first one to tell her. Now for the mini update. Thanks all. I have no intentions of contacting him anymore. He is blocked. When I say the camel's back is broken, it is. I felt I needed to reciprocate what was inflicted, but don't apply that concept to mundane or everyday interactions, to those that think I am an a-hole. Unhealthy to feel some satisfaction from it, sure, but not making it an ongoing consumption. I feel pretty content and optimistic about where I am going from here. I will focus on myself and my life. And the guy I went on the date with is aware of circumstances, and we agreed to foster a friendship and go with the flow. Next story. Am I overreacting for calling a divorce attorney after my husband lied about who he was with? I, 37 female, just need unbiased opinions. My husband, 37 male, asked me 2 weeks ago if he could go camping this past weekend with a friend and his brother. He asked via text, so I know I'm not remembering incorrectly. I said I didn't know because our 5-year-old daughter had a cheer competition, and I'd prefer not to drag our 6-year-old son along for such a long day. He offered to arrange a sitter, but I still wasn't happy because the competition was early and close to our house. Getting her up and ready is already a pain. Adding in driving our son to a sitter would just make the morning even more stressful. When we found out she had a later performance time, he decided to go. He said he was going with his brother because the friend couldn't go. Wednesday night before he left, he specifically said he was nervous about the Verizon outages because he and his brother both have Verizon and were hoping they wouldn't lose access to GPS. Thursday morning, he texted that he made it to the campsite safely. I didn't hear from him again. By Friday at noon, I reached out to make sure he was alive. He usually texts me daily check-ins when camping. I got no response. By 6 p.m., I was nervous and texted my sister-in-law to see if my brother-in-law had been able to contact her. That's when she replied, "Ma'am, what are you talking about? My husband is on the couch next to me." I saw red. In my mind, my husband was still camping, but had used his brother as a manipulative tool because he assumed I wouldn't want to ruin his good time. For some background, we have young kids who need a lot of attention. I work full-time and manage basically everything for the kids. He works a swing shift and is gone 14 hours a day on work days. I'm constantly juggling everything alone, so it really sucks when he finally has time off and actively chooses to spend it detached and unhelpful in every way. Saturday, he finally texted that he had service again and was coming home. I ignored the text. He called, but I was driving with our daughter in the car, so taking a call wasn't appropriate. When I could, I texted him and called him out on his lie. He doubled down and said he didn't lie. It was a change in plans because by the time he knew our daughter's start time was late enough for him to go, it was too late to invite his brother. It's now Monday. He's been living out of our basement or at work and hasn't tried to talk to me at all. Instead, he's taking the stance that he's mad at me for being mad. In my opinion, he lied to me. He manipulated me. Instead of apologizing when he was caught, He doubled down and is now using my anger against me. The fact is, I no longer trust him and have contacted an attorney. So, am I overreacting? Now for the top comments before reading the update. He built in the Verizon comments so he could turn his phone off. He was not alone. Sorry. Yeah, the Verizon thing up front was so sus it's insane. I'm sure she could also check with Verizon to see when the last service outage was. If it wasn't on the day he said, that would be double confirmation for you. Stay strong, OP. Don't let him gaslight you. Can you access his bank records? See if there are any unusual charges leading up to the trip. Maybe he didn't even camp, because who goes alone? Also, who was the nameless friend? I'd check with the brother-in-law, or better yet, the sister-in-law, to see if they even knew about a camping trip. Not overreacting. You've got to protect yourself at the end of the day. If there's a chance he's cheating, you're one step ahead, and there's nothing wrong with that. He clearly lied and is now gaslighting you and faulting you for having a completely appropriate response to the situation. It makes no sense that it was too late to invite his brother when, at the time he left, he told you it was the friend who wasn't joining, not his brother. Sorry you're having to deal with this. I hope you can get him to admit what really went on soon. I'll add that even if he was fully alone and nothing happened at all, he could have tried to understand where you were coming from instead of getting angry with you and making you even more suspicious. Thank you. I do truly believe that he just went by himself, but his brother had no idea about any of it, so it was never discussed with him. And it bothers me so much that he went out of his way the night before to bring up, yeah, we both have Verizon, when he knew damn well his brother wasn't going with him. At any point, he could have said the plans changed, but he stuck with his lie because it was part of his manipulation. It just sounds so stupid that I'm going to risk not spending future holidays with my kids because he went camping alone and not with his brother like he said. I know it's deeper and more than that, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it. Now for the update. I know this isn't the update any of you want, but it's the update you get. He was truly camping alone in the woods. He truly had no service. He did mention it beforehand specifically because we were both in SOS mode all day the Tuesday before he left due to the Verizon nationwide outage. For everyone who thinks I'm a naive moron, okay. For everyone who thinks he just needed a break from the pressures of a high-stakes job and 2 young kids, let me tell you, this man has felt zero stress from having 2 young kids. I do their homework with them. I do the bedtime routine. I register them for everything. I take them to all practices and performances. I coach when it's a sport I'm familiar with. I volunteer at their school and at every event I can, before they're old enough that my face there will be more humiliating than helpful. I mow the lawn. I shovel the snow. When the sink leaked, I fixed it. There isn't a honey-do list here that I'm not already covering. I told him I contacted an attorney. He had no reply. The next day, he asked if we could talk. He admitted that he's been a really crappy partner and dad for the past 2 years. He cited very specific examples of being a crappy dad, not knowing our son's teacher's name, never seeing a single performance from our daughter in cheer or dance. Calm down, they're just recitals, not competitive cheer or dance. I can't imagine how mad some of you would be if you thought she was. Not doing anything around the house. Constantly being mad at me for having emotions and punishing me for anything he viewed as an indiscretion by ignoring me for a week until he decided enough time had passed and resurfaced pretending everything was fine. Not one apology. Not one thank you for taking such good care of my family while he wasn't there mentally. No request for therapy, which I was grateful for. Since the last time he requested therapy, he attended every session stone-faced and gave me no response afterward, even when I begged for acknowledgement of anything I said. Anyway, wish me luck with the rest of my life. I will never be with a man ever again. 0 out of 5 stars, do not recommend. Last story. Am I the a-hole for canceling a date over the location? I, 28 female, recently canceled a second date with someone, 38 male, because it felt like a test on his end to see how much I would tolerate in the future. I'm wondering if I was too harsh. We met on a dating app and went out for coffee. We made loose plans for dinner the following week, and he specifically said dinner several times. When we were discussing the dinner plans over the next few days, he seemed to want to be the one to do the actual planning. I was fine with that. I find it rare for potential partners to take initiative with planning these days, so I was actually excited. He asked if I had any dietary restrictions, and I let him know that I have only 2 major requirements. I don't eat red meat, and I do not drink as I'm a recovering alcoholic. I have almost 2 years sober, and we discussed at length during our first date what we're both comfortable with in terms of substance use. I told him directly that I don't mind if a date has a drink with dinner, but that I will never touch alcohol again. I also stressed that I am absolutely not a picky eater and truly love all forms of cuisine. I just can't eat red meat for both health and personal reasons. I have a history of cardiac illness and have been advised to stick to poultry and fish. The night before the date, he told me that he'd made a reservation at a place I hadn't heard of. I looked it up and texted him a link asking if I had the correct place because it was a cocktail lounge. He replied that it was correct and said he liked their small bites menu. I checked the menu and there were only a few options. A meat and cheese board with only 2 cheeses and 4 meats. No substitutions allowed. A pepperoni pizza, a burger, and a cheese pizza. I wasn't extremely upset, but I was confused that it was a cocktail lounge with only 1 option I could eat. While I was still looking at the menu, he texted again and said he thought we could go to the lounge for dinner and then head to a nearby art-themed bar for a nightcap. At that point, I was honestly pretty confused. Neither location was truly a restaurant, they were bars, and he was fully aware that I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm genuinely okay with restaurants that have alcohol options, but I was honestly a little gobsmacked at the suggestion of 2 bars. Not restaurants with alcohol options, bars. I decided to take the evening to think about it, but the next day I texted him and said that I didn't think moving forward with a date was a good idea. My gut instinct was that if he chose a date location that violated the only 2 restrictions I gave, it was a test to see how much I'd put aside my wants and needs in the future. We live in a major city, and I want to stress that there are hundreds of incredible food options here. I would have been fine with almost anything else that was restaurant-focused and had a couple of non-red meat options. It was the fact that both places he chose were strictly bars, and the food they offered left me with a single option. He responded strangely after I told him I didn't think we were a good match. He said, "We'll leave it at that, peace, and nothing else." Now I'm doubting myself. My friends have said I'm not crazy for thinking the choices were strange at best and inconsiderate or intentional at worst. But I wanted objective opinions from people I don't know. What do we think, Reddit? Was this actually a red flag, or am I overreacting? For what it's worth, I'm not desperate to date or have a partner. I own a successful small business, have a fantastic group of friends, several hobbies I'm dedicated to, and my own home. I'm in no rush to settle down, especially for the wrong person. Not the a-hole. You were entirely correct. He was testing or taunting you. You gave 2 basic restrictions, and he went out of his way to plan a date that not only ignored both, but blatantly did everything possible to violate those preferences. I think his response shows that he realized his idea backfired and that there was no way to justify it. Or he was talking to multiple women and couldn't be bothered to keep them straight. Not the a-hole. As a recovering alcoholic myself, I would have been insulted by these choices. Always follow your gut instinct because it's usually right. I think there's a possibility this guy wasn't as interested in you as you may have been in him originally. If he were interested, those 2 choices would have never been on his radar. Great job avoiding a disaster. I was honestly not interested from the get-go, but because he texted me several times about going out, I was willing to give it a try. He'd said a couple of other things that concerned me on the first coffee date, so I was already feeling unsure, but that interaction really sealed the deal. What else did he say? Just little things here and there that make me anxious when anyone says them. Stuff like, "It's hard to find women like you." It's not. I am as generic an art-ho white woman as it gets. He also said something about how a lot of people bore him, and reiterated that he thought this could work out a couple of times within 2 hours of meeting each other. The issue is that I've definitely had some trauma with dating, and I can't always tell if I'm being extra sensitive or dramatic because of that trauma, or if it's genuinely a massive red flag.